book besties, welcome back to my channel if you're new here. My name is Liv and today we're going to be chatting about all the books I plan to read in the month of March. Some typical things I usually talk about, like my book club and my Hunger Games read along, things like that. But honestly, I struggled a little bit to put this TBR together because I don't really know what I'm in the mood to read. I know I'm in the mood to read like some fast-paced fun books, but I also feel like I'm in the mood to read some great fantasy, but also like springtime is coming. So I have a couple like spring books that I kind of want to include in this TBR. I feel like it's a little too early to get into spring, but I don't know. You guys tell me. But honestly, don't hold me accountable to this TBR because I don't know what I'm in the mood to read. I just know that I'm in a reading mood, but I'm reading multiple things at once. So we'll just see where this month takes us. But go ahead and grab yourselves a coffee. I've got mine. I'm an iced coffee girly all year round. And let's just go ahead and dive right in and talk about the things that I have going on over on Patreon for this month. The book that we are going to be reading in the month of March that you guys voted for is A Tempest of Tea, which I am so elated to talk about and finally dive into. This is one of my most anticipated for this year, mainly because the cover is just stunning. I had to have this book. The end pages is also beautiful and I just cannot wait to finally get into this. But as excited as I am, I don't know much about it. I just know there are vampires and there's a tea shop. Why save the world when you can have tea? On the streets of White Roaring, Arthi is a criminal mastermind and collector of secrets. Her prestigious tea room transforms into an illegal bloodhouse by night, catering to the vampires feared by society. But when her establishment is threatened, Arthi is forced to strike an unlikely deal with an alluring adversary to save it, and she can't do the job alone. It sounds kind of like a high-stakes, urban kind of fantasy, which I'm really excited for. I honestly haven't had the best luck with urban fantasy, but I have really high hopes for this one. So if you want to read and chat along with us and join my book club, it's only $3 a month and you get to chat live with me. You can be on screen if you want with me or just in the comments. We always just have the best time candidly talking over there about our thoughts and opinions about books. So if you're interested, go ahead and pick up this book and read it along with us. I also have Mockingjay by Suzanne. We are continuing our Hunger Games read along of reading one book a month and then watching the movie at the end of the month. Let me just say this has been the best experience ever. I have not read these books since like 2010 and there was so much that I forgot, and we get so much of Peeta's humor, and the whole dynamic between Katniss and Peeta is very different but just so much more deep in the books than it is from the movies, and we're just having so much fun. So we're going to be doing a part 1 and part 2 watch along after we read this. So again, check out my Patreon if you are interested at all in joining us. We now have the beloved TBR jar or TBR mug, which has my 24 books of 2024 that I really want to make a priority, and last month actually went pretty well. After failing in January, I did end up reading Better Than the Movies for February, so I can check that one off my list, and we're gonna go ahead and pick 2 more for me to decide from for the month of March. Okay, there's only 1 or 2 more pink ones in here, so I don't think I'm gonna pick that. Nope, we got a purple, which I think is a fantasy, and I'm really hoping it's not like a winter fall fantasy. Bookshops and Bonedust. Okay, this would actually be perfect because I've been dying to get to this and I don't know why it's taken me so long. So I'm probably gonna read this one. I'm just gonna go ahead and pick a second one just in case there's a better option. All right, let's go ahead and pick this guy here, another fantasy. Oof. The Last Heir to Blackwood Library. Okay, I feel like that cover with the florals is giving me spring vibes, so that could be a good reason to pick it up. It's gonna be really tough, actually. I think I am gonna just go ahead and stick with Bookshops and Bonedust though, because then I can fit in like one last cozy fantasy of like the winter season before spring officially begins. So yeah, let's just go and go with Bookshops and Bonedust and hope I can fit this in somewhere in my TBR. Okay, we're gonna talk about anticipated releases now out for the month of March, which is always my favorite segment to talk about because then you guys get to be reminded of new books, and some of these I kind of forgot were coming out. But I will say there's not many in March that I really want. I think I'm actually going to plan a no-buy March because I did buy a lot in January for my birthday, but there are 3 that I do want to briefly talk about. One of them I do have an arc of, which worked out in my favor, and that is Murder Road by Simone St. James. I'm not sure what number book this is or what number thriller this is that she's written so far, but this is only her 2nd book that I've read of hers. I've read The Broken Girls and it was just okay for me, but this one so far has been so much fun. It's about a young couple who's heading to their honeymoon and they find this lady who is seriously injured on the side of the road. They give her a ride and she tries to tell them where to go, but then they get lost. There are just crazy kind of eerie things happening, and you know you're dealing with unreliable narrators as well of the main 2 characters or the couple that's in the story, and they're being questioned by the police, and you just know something is not quite right. But apparently there's like this weird history of murders happening on this specific road. I'm just really having fun with this one. I am loving thrillers right now, and this is just gonna be a really good one. Next, I have another thriller that's coming out on the 5th called Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This book has been on my anticipated releases list for a while, even though I've genuinely never heard of this author. I don't know what else she's written, but I was super happy to see that her book was chosen as a Book of the Month choice, so I do have that coming. But I do know that this is about 2 best friends. One of them goes missing, or actually I think she gets murdered, and her best friend is accused of murdering her. I think there's another person that may come in and follow along the best friend and questions her, and she has like her own podcast. So I love that we have not only a best friend kind of dynamic situation, but I'm sure this is going to be phenomenal on audio because there is that podcast element. I'm really excited about this one, especially because the synopsis starts off with, what if you thought you murdered your best friend? And if everyone else thought so too? And what if the truth doesn't matter? So something about that is just completely sucking me in, and I'm so stoked to see where this story goes. Next, I have The Hedge Witch of Fox Hall by Anna Bright. This is a new standalone fantasy, and I don't know if it's actually a debut. I don't think it is. I think she also wrote The Song That Moves the Sun. This cover is giving me total like cottagecore spring vibes, even though the color is kind of autumnal. I just really think that this is going to be perfect for spring. In this gorgeous standalone fantasy romance perfect for fans of Margaret Rogerson and Alison Saft, a rebellious witch undertakes a last-ditch quest to restore magic to medieval Wales as 2 princes vie for her heart. The magical system sounds really cool in this one because it also says that the main character is the last hedge witch in Fox Hall. To work her magic, she takes only what nature can spare, unlike the witches of the powerful Foxhall coven who sacrifice whole forests to fuel their spells. This definitely sounds like it's going to be more of like a naturalist. I don't know, something about this just sounds really fun and really inviting, especially for this time of year. Those are my like most anticipated for the month of March. I probably will only buy The Hedge Witch at Foxhall because again it feels perfect for spring. But now we can just talk about all the other random things I have going on this month, and the first one being my friend Kendall's Patreon book club pick, which is The Clinic by Kate Quinn. This is another book that has been on my highly anticipated reads of the year. Haven't got my hands on a copy yet, but I'm so excited about this one. A thriller set in a remote rehab clinic on the Pacific Northwest coast in which the death of a woman inside prompts her sister to enter the clinic as a patient in order to find the truth. It says this is also perfect for fans of Stacey Willingham and Taryn Fisher. I feel like because it's at a rehab facility, it might be a little bit darker or deeper than I want or expect it to be, but I just love the whole idea of like undercover spy, that kind of trope I love. But I hope that this is a really good thriller. I've been seeing good things, a lot of people giving it 4 stars, so I'm hoping I give it the same. The next thing that I have going on for March is Middle Grade March, and while I'm not actually participating in the readathon itself with the prompts, I do love to use the month of March to pick up whatever middle grade I haven't read yet. I still do have a few that I haven't unhauled yet, and 2 of them are very spring, so these are going to be like the spring books that I finally like dip my toes into for the season. The first one is Eva Evergreen, Semi-Magical Witch, and then I also have Greenwild, Step into the Adventure of a lifetime. Both of these are super spring. This one specifically, you can probably guess, looks a lot like Kiki's Delivery Service, and it also sounds a lot like Kiki's Delivery Service. This little girl is on a mission to help her town, but unfortunately she only has a little pinch of magic, and she just goes on all these wild adventures trying to help the townspeople. But it looks like we also have a cat or some sort of creature down here that also reminds me of Gigi, like the black cat in Kiki's. So I feel like this is just going to be right up my alley. And then I also have Greenwild, which is stunning, you guys. Look at this map. And then we also have this, which is beautiful. Not only that, but we have like a botanist field guide on the inside, which has glossy pages. And there's also like just pictures and diagrams of all these different plants. And this just sounds adorable. It's basically about a girl whose mom holds a lot of secrets. She goes missing. So our main character, the daughter, obviously goes searches for her mom, meets characters and plants obviously along the way. So I'm super excited about this one. And if you have not checked out Middle Grade March, or you're like, what in the world is Middle Grade March? I will leave the Instagram handle below, as well as the ladies that run this readathon, which is Cate, Krista, and Amanda. So if you guys have not checked them out, or you don't know what this readathon is, it's one of my favorites. But again, I'm just gonna be sprinkling in a couple middle grade here and there if I have time for the month of March. Next, I have a couple series I would like to continue in the month of March, mainly because, again, I don't really know what I want to read in March, and I feel like continuing a series is always a safe bet. And to start us off, I have Foxglove by Adalyn Grace. I knew, I could see the end coming of what was going to happen in Belladonna, and I was like, oh my gosh, she actually went there, and that cliffhanger was just incredible. So I'm very, very, very excited to get back into this one. I can hardly wait. But again, we kind of have some floral vibes going on, which is like a little hint of spring that I'm very excited to incorporate, and I think this is just going to be such a fun continuation of the series. A little bit creepier, but also just really fun on audio. This next book, I'm so very specifically excited about this one because this story already holds a near and dear place in my heart from my childhood, and that is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm so excited to finally read this. I grew up with The Lord of the Rings. I grew up watching The Hobbit. I watched them all in theaters. I absolutely love this. I know Lord of the Rings is a little bit dense, so I thought I would start with The Hobbit, and I cannot get over this amazing, amazing edition. It's the 75th anniversary. There's also just some amazing illustrations on the inside, and I'm definitely going to be reading along with the Andy Serkis narration, who plays the voice of Gollum, because it's just gonna be so incredible. Every time I think of The Hobbit, I just think of their little hobbit houses or hobbit holes, and it just makes me think of spring and green, and it just makes me happy. So I'm really excited to get into this. The next series I would really love to continue, and honestly I don't know why I'm doing this to myself again. I already read 2 massive Sarah J books back to back. I would love to continue the Throne of Glass series. Yes, I'm only on Heir of Fire, but Crown of Midnight, the ending, really sets off the rest of this series, and I can only imagine what waits in the pages of this book. And I'm just not emotionally prepared for how she's gonna rip my heart out at the end of this series, but also I like cannot wait. I've been putting this off for long enough. It's my last series or books that I have to read of hers, and I like don't want it to end because then I'll have to wait on something new, which I guess I could reread ACOTAR. That's probably what I'll do. But I'm very excited to get back into this and see what all of the hype is about. The next book on my TBR is one that my friends quickly, very, very quickly twisted my arm to buy and read with them in March, and that is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen, who wrote The Bridge Kingdom, which I have heard amazing things about. It's a super popular romantasy series that I personally have not read yet, but when I saw these sparkly edges in the store, I was like, how does a girl say no to this? And there's like a little symbol on the white cover. Like, this is just stunning. It is full of Norse mythology, and people are highly anticipating this one, like being 5 stars. Like, I keep seeing this everywhere, and if there's hype surrounding a book like this, kind of like there was hype surrounding Fourth Wing, I feel like I had to pick this up in case they go out of stock of these sprayed edges. A shield maiden blessed by the gods battles to unite a nation mission under a power-hungry king while fighting her growing desire for his fiery son in this Norse-inspired fantasy romance. It seems like it's just going to be a really high-stakes, action-packed, non-stop book that I can't put down. And I'm also just super excited to buddy read this with some of my friends. It's been a while since I've buddy read anything other than for my book club, so I think this is just going to be really fun. The last fantasy book, which you probably recognize from my February TBR, I am trying to fit in the City of Stardust. I did not have time in the month of February, and I still really am excited about this one. I have not seen any people I personally know read and love it, so I would love to be like one of those first people that can just form my own opinion about this one. But this is just stunning. It's giving Strange the Dreamer vibes and the Starless Sea, and I think this could be the potential to be like one of my favorites of the year. It's kind of like a darker gothic story from what I'm getting, but I'm going into this one completely blind, don't really know what to expect, but I feel like that is the best way sometimes to go into a fantasy. Next, I have two books that I am reading for a video. I'm not really going to tell you what that video is, but I did decide to add them to my TBR. That is The Housemaid by Frieda McFadden, and I also have The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. Rachel Hawkins, I read from before. Hated the book. I have not read a Frieda McFadden yet, so I don't know what I'm going to think about either of these books. This one like won Goodreads award or something this year, and everybody talks about how bingeable it is. And this one I had no idea apparently has Mary Shelley vibes and was inspired by Fleetwood Mac. So clearly I didn't know what this one was about, but then I read that and I was like, okay, I'm sold. I need to read this book. I will explain in further detail my thoughts on these, why I'm reading them in my video, but until then, you guys will just have to be in the dark. One of my favorite romance authors of all time finally came out to a sequel of one of her books. It's called My Lucky Charm by Courtney Walsh. She wrote My Phony Valentine last year, which I read and absolutely loved. I think it's my favorite of hers that I've read so far, and I've read quite a few of her books, but this one is another hockey romance, as you can tell, and it follows, I think, the sister of our main character from the first book. But if you guys don't know anything about Courtney's books, she's clean, there's no spice, it's wholesome. The humor and the banter is always top-notch, and I feel like I can almost always relate to what the main girl character is going through. And the fact that she writes such relatable characters, for me, I just feel like makes me love her writing and her even more. It says, a humiliating breakup leads to an impulsive New Year's kiss with a complete stranger. What could possibly go wrong? But this one does take place around St. Patrick's Day, so I will be reading this in the month of March. And if you guys have not checked out Courtney's books, please check out her books. Thank you, Courtney, if you're watching this, for sending me a copy. I love you and I appreciate you so much. Last but not least, you guys know I've been trying to fit in a Christian nonfiction into every single monthly TBR. Yes, I might not be the greatest at finishing them, but I'm always just excited to dive into a new Christian nonfiction, see what I can learn, pray about it, open my heart, and see what happens. And for the month of March, Jenny Allen finally came out with her new book called Untangle Your Emotions. So I am going to be buddy reading this or reading this with my sister and a couple friends locally to me here, and I'm just really excited to get into this book. Her other two books have been so impactful for me and so memorable. She just has such a great way of including not only faith but science into her books. I love an online community. You guys know I love the book community, but there's something so special about having a local in-person meeting where you can hug and you can cry things out together, you can have deep conversations face to face, and I feel like that's what I've been missing a lot of lately. So I'm very excited to read this with some of my closest friends. I know for me, sometimes I feel all these different things and I process them, but I don't know what to do with those feelings. And so I think this is gonna really help me work through my feelings, which is the point of this book. So I'm very excited that Jenny came out with another book. She's one of my favorite all-time authors, and if you've never read her, I definitely recommend. Alright friends, that is my plans or goals for the month of March. I definitely have some spring content coming, some spring book recommendations and everything coming your way. I feel like March is just like that weird in-between month of winter and spring, and I've kind of been in a weird bad mood, kind of funk the last 2 weeks, if I'm being completely honest. So honestly, I am more than excited to get going with the spring content. So before you leave this video, if you made it this far, leave me a flower heart emoji to brighten my day and everyone else's in the comments below. And don't forget to check out my Patreon if you're looking for a cozy community of readers and just wonderful lady friends. They are just so amazing and they make my day every single day. But thank you guys so much for watching. I love you so much. Thank you for supporting my channel and I will see you in my next video.